Michael, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day. Give us some of your time and tell us why you're running. And that's what people want to know. They want to know why does Michael Roth say I could do this job. I want this job. Give it to me.
Yeah. Let me first tell you, so I'm on a 95 town tour across this district. What you see behind me is the full New Jersey 7. And I've been talking to thousands and thousands of people. And yesterday, I had a conversation with a 94-year-old woman that is really sticking with me this morning. She has been a public servant in New Jersey her entire life. She retired when she was 75. She's been living in the same rental apartment for, I think, over 2 decades. We had a great conversation at the end. She said to me, Michael, I've lived in New Jersey my entire life, and I'm not sure I can afford to die here. I'm not sure I can afford to die here. And it's emblematic of what I hear across the district in every conversation that I have, whether it's young parents who are working multiple jobs, commuting into the city and can't afford childcare, whether it's farmers. We've had multiple farms in our district close doors after 100 years in operation because they've lost their customers because of tariffs. We've had manufacturing on the west side of this district where their steel inputs have doubled in cost, and they also can't even get those raw materials. And so we're in the middle of an affordability crisis, and Donald Trump ran his campaign on the cost of eggs. And all we've seen since he's been in power is a set of policies that have ripped off the American people, that have ripped off the people of New Jersey 7. And Tom Kean Jr. has done absolutely nothing about it. And this is deeply personal for me. I'm from this district. I'm very blessed. I've got four generations of family who all live within 10 minutes of me. I've got a 95-year-old grandma. I've got five nieces and nephews from the ages of from 3 to 8. This is home to me. I love it here. And I want to make sure that this is the absolute best place to live a life of dignity that people can afford. And I've spent my career bringing billions of dollars back into this state to help grow our economy, create jobs, make life more affordable. People from my time leading at the Small Business Administration to a Senate caucus that I ran that delivered $12 billion in affordable housing for people. Uh, I understand the things that people are really struggling with. And we deserve better than what we have right now. We deserve better than somebody who is just rubber stamping Trump's agenda and isn't showing up. Uh, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do when I get into Congress. I'm going to make sure that we grow our economy and make life more affordable for people.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned farmers that are out of business now after 100 years. And we're seeing anytime you turn on the news, if you watch it long enough, you're going to hear from a farmer who is pleading with the government, we need help. But what I also hear, just I don't have the vantage point you have, but I hear there's still farmers that they voted for Trump, they're still supporting him. He is the cause, say what you will, for their problems. I guess my question is, are you still hearing that when you talk to people that, well, he's going to get us through this, that they're just still like, let's just keep pushing forward, or is it the opposite?
I hear the opposite. I hear a lot of pain. I hear a lot of pain. And when I was leading at the Small Business Administration, something similar was happening. Rural farmers were being left out. So I was leading the Small Business Administration and in the middle of the pandemic, when small businesses across this country, no matter who you were, whether you were on Main Street or owned a farm, you were struggling because the economy was shut down. And the way that the Trump administration set up that program made it incredibly hard for anyone who wasn't a big business with deep connections with banks to actually get that funding. And so when we took over in the Biden administration in 2021, uh, we changed the rules. We went deep into rural. We increased funding to farmers by more than 30% in just a couple months. And so there's a general distrust in rural communities of Democrats. So that's why it's incredibly important that we run the right Democrats who actually can relate to the issues that farmers have. I mean, it's a fundamental thing. I was talking to my niece the other day, and she's gotten very into my campaign, and it's been an amazing thing for us to bond over. And she asked me the other day, "What is the job of a representative?" And I said, "Gabrielle, what do you think the job of a representative is?" And she said, "To represent people." Yeah, that's exactly right. The job of a representative is to represent people. And so you need somebody who's actually representative of the communities that you're serving. And so I have worked we've got a very diverse district. It's got the New York City suburbs over here. You've got a lot of farmers and agriculture here. You've got the western part that borders Pennsylvania's manufacturing. You need somebody who's got deep experience in working across all of that diversity to actually be able to represent them.
Yeah, when you talked about like the farmers and stuff, one thing a lot of people don't realize, it's a lot like New York. When they think New Jersey, they think near the city, East Rutherford. They don't realize it's called the Garden State for a reason. It's not just a big metropolis that looks like Newark.
Yeah.
Uh, but one of the things that when you first get into Congress, no matter what happens, your Donald Trump will still be president. So anything you want to do is going to ultimately have to go through him. So I guess, what are some of the things you think you could do right away that would either get through Trump or work around him?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, Congress has to reassert itself as a equal branch of government. I'm running in New Jersey's 7th congressional district. There's maybe about 10 congressional districts in the entire country that we can actually flip from red to blue. And this is one of them. This election has monumental consequences, not just for New Jersey 7, but the entire country. Because if we win New Jersey 7, we're going to win back the House, and we're going to actually be able to hold Trump accountable. And what's happening right now, I spent this past weekend at the No Kings protest, and it was pretty clear people do not want a king. People do not want a king, and that's where we are right now. He has unfettered power. And so the first thing that we need to do is put some checks and balances in place. When I was leading at the Small Business Administration, I had dozens and dozens and dozens of members of Congress calling me every single day, holding me accountable for delivering funding into their districts, whether they were Democrats or Republicans. And that helped me get better. And Congress has totally lost its way, just rubber stamping everything that Donald Trump has done, not holding any federal agency accountable. And the only people who lose is every American. We are getting ripped off because of it. Funding is not getting out. People are not getting their health care. Businesses are closing. Everything's getting more expensive because Congress is not doing their job. So the first fundamental thing that we need to do is reestablish Congress as a real check and balance on the Trump regime. I hesitate to even call it an administration. It is a regime the way that they're running. And so that's the first and most important thing that we need to do.
Do you do you have any ideas? Because prices, people have been promised we're going to lower prices. The Inflation Reduction Act. Now of course, Donald Trump campaigned in front of cereal boxes and said it's going to be half the price by the
Yeah.
time of it, the first month in office, and yet prices are going up. Beef record high, coffee record high. Do you have any plans or thoughts on what you could do, what Congress could do to stabilize that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing that I hear in terms of cost is housing. The number two thing that I hear is energy prices. And we have to focus right there where people are really hurting. And so for housing, we have a shortage of 400,000 units in the state of New Jersey. We have tons of land in New Jersey that is not being utilized. We I love New Jersey. We lead the country in some difficult statistics. We have the most Superfund sites, toxic sites in the country. We have more than 20%. We have 20% more Superfund sites than the entire state of California, who's second.
Wow.
We have brownfield sites. We have empty shopping malls and retail sites. We need to completely rethink how we're using that land. We need to build economic opportunity. We need to create jobs in different parts of this state. And then we need to build massive amounts of housing around it. New Jersey's last in the country in our public school educated kids coming back into this state. Just 7% of people who go through our public schools end up back in New Jersey. And that creates all sorts of issues, economic issues. It creates a lot of family issues because we have our families are separated. We're not all families get along, but we're meant to
Yeah.
support each other and be close to each other. And we can't have that because of our policies. So what we need to be able to do is build more housing around where there's economic opportunity. And we have so much opportunity to do that in this state.
Do you think do you have any thoughts on, because the counter to that, when I talk to people and they we talk about housing comes up, that's usually a response. Let's take some of these areas where we can build more housing. And the first response, somebody comes on, they'll say, yeah, but BlackRock is going to buy all those houses up and double the price. Do you give any thought to that? Or do you think they're overreacting?
I think that that is true sometimes. So the woman who I talked about, the 94-year-old woman, she lives in a home that is owned by private equity. We have to stop the price gouging. They they know they know who their clients are. They know exactly how old everybody is. They know a 94-year-old woman is not going to move no matter how much they increase their rent. That has to stop. That's dreadful, dreadful business. But what I've done across the country um, uh, is actually build workforce housing. So I talked about before taking up the land. You don't just build housing. What you need to do is bring quality jobs with dignity back into the state. Another thing that New Jersey, unfortunately, we're 48th in many measures of economic opportunity. Companies are leaving New Jersey. Our wages have not increased in decades. We have a good minimum wage, but wages haven't increased in a very long time. And it's because we're not creating companies here. And so what I've done across the country is build businesses, make sure there's ecosystems for small businesses, for medium-sized businesses, for big businesses, in jobs of the future. And then we have to build housing around that. So the reason that we have some overcrowding in our state, I'm very against overdevelopment. Right now, in a lot of our suburbs that connect into New York City, where we have train lines, we have a lot of overdevelopment. And the reason that there's overdevelopment is because we have trains to jobs in those places. The only place to get a good job is if you take the train over into New York City. We have to change that paradigm. New Jersey needs to be a place that we build. We need to be leaders in advanced manufacturing, in technology, in healthcare, in industries of the future. And we're not today. And so in all of this land over here where we have empty retail, brownfield sites, Superfund sites, we got to clean those things up. And then we got to bring businesses and build housing around where there's opportunity. And that's actually how you solve the issue, bring down the costs of housing, create part of an affordability issue is if everybody has more money, people can also afford it. And so we only look at one side of the equation, but increasing people's incomes and wealth is probably the absolute best way to actually solve our affordability issue.
Yeah. The if people had, if people had enough money that at the end of the week they could spend it all on bills and still have a little bit to have a sandwich somewhere without being judged, it'd be nice.
It's the dream. Like, what I talk about is how can we renew the American dream? which is if you work hard enough, you should be able to afford to live in a home in the place in the neighborhood that you want to live in. You should be able to afford all of the supplies for your kids. You should be able to afford childcare. You should be able to afford going to a hospital, not being nervous about ending up in debt. Uh, and at the end of it, people want a freaking vacation. Like, take a family on a vacation. That's the dream. Like, we shouldn't just be scraping by. We live in the wealthiest country in the world. We could have these things if our government started working for us. But it's about time that we get people into government who actually want to serve and not just have good intentions, but know what they're doing when they get there. In elections, there are essentially two questions. It's like, one, can you win? And then two, can you do the job when you get there? And part of the problem in our politics is the answers to these two questions have started to move further and further apart. We elect people who are super charismatic and we think that they can connect with voters, but when they get there, they don't understand how to actually do the job. What we need to do is get some electable candidates who are charismatic, and you all can be the judge if I fit that bill, but then who actually know the technical ways that Congress and government can actually work for people. And so I think I answer both of those questions with a strong heck yes. Uh, and I think we need more people like me running.
Yeah, so you brought up a great point. Everybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent, they run for Congress and they are for the people. Man, they get it. We're struggling. And then they get there and then the nonsense begins.
Yeah.
What's the disconnect? What happens? Why do you think that is? That they get there and they're in it, they're ready, and then forget it.
Yeah. There's an old saying that elected officials, that a member of Congress's number one job is to get elected. The number two job is to get reelected. And then somewhere in the distant future, with a big gap, number three, it's to maybe serve the people. And we need to get rid of career politicians. And Tom Kane Jr., our current representative, is the definition of that. For almost 30 years, the only thing that that man has done is run for elected office. When I was growing up, he was my assemblyman, and he did the same things that that he does now. He was completely non-existent. My dad for the last 35 years has been president of our local volunteer first aid squad. And so I would see Tom Kane Jr. exactly one time a year when he would come and take a picture with my dad. And that's it. He would show up because he'd then use that in his reelection campaign, and that's it. And imagine being this politician where your only skill is to get elected. Uh, Imagine if he lost an election. What is that guy going to do?
Right.
He's got no other skills. So we need to start electing people. You know, I've run a company, I've run a federal agency, I've run a nonprofit. Whenever it is my time to go, I'm going to be fine. I have other skill sets. We need more people who their career is not just being a politician. And so that's why I'm hugely in favor of one, ending Citizens United. We have to get corporate money out of politics. It's the root of a lot of our evils. It's so hard when the people who actually get you elected because they're the ones who are paying for you to get on TV for everybody to see you. They have so much power over our politicians uh, that when they get into Congress, especially when they don't know what they're doing, they just say, pass this. And that's what happens. I'm also hugely in favor of term limits. I think we need to have term limits everywhere. In the House of Representatives, in the Senate, I think we need to have term limits in the Supreme Court. Uh, we cannot have career people, and you see it today. The only Republicans who are standing up to Donald Trump are the ones who are saying that they are not running for reelection. It's the only people standing up. We need more people who are just genuinely uh, uh, representing the people and are not worried about what the impact of their reelection campaign is going to be.
The Yeah, I think it's so weird to me, just to move on from this topic, but to put a bow on it. What is weird to me, and what I when I talk with my friends and family is every politician, depending on the party they're in, they'll tell you this president under this administration, this regime, life is hard for everyday Americans. But we've lived through Trump, Biden, Trump, Obama, the Bushes, Clinton, Reagan, Carter. Life was hard for everyday Americans under every single one of those guys.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. There's always this talk, but then they get there and it's like, I'm good. I'm just gonna hang out and sit in the background, try to get on Fox News once a week, and I'll be happy. Get my reelection. You mentioned, I do want to get on energy cost because
Yeah.
that's another thing that Trump and Republicans said, drill, baby, drill. That's all we got to do. And it's so easy, and yet we're seeing cost of energy go up. Electricity bills are jumping. What do you think is Congress's role? What's something you see is that you can do aside from is it just the previous answer, rise wages?
So rising wages is always helpful, but for energy costs, it is imperative that we fix our energy infrastructure in this country. Tom Kane Jr., our representative, he is on the Energy and Commerce Committee. He said back in February that if we cut any funding for clean energy, this country is going to go into an energy crisis. His words, that's what he said. A month later, and a day before he got an endorsement from Donald Trump and got money from a Trump super PAC, he voted to cut clean energy policy. So now we're in an energy crisis. We need to dramatically build all sorts of energy. We need solar. We need nuclear. We need wind. We need every type of energy right now because people, the consumers need it. And also it is the currency of the future of our economy. If we want New Jersey to remain being an economic powerhouse, if we want to be able to compete in the global marketplace, we need to be leading the world on energy. And we are so far behind. We're so far behind on things like battery manufacturing. It's why in China, they're able to make electric vehicles at half the cost that we can here. So we need to be able to compete on energy, and we need Congress to reinstate a lot of the laws that are in the Inflation Reduction Act, uh, and make sure that that's a top priority.
Perfect. You froze there for a while.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad, but the face you made was like perfect for everything you were saying, and I'm like, this is gonna play back nicely. But I don't want to. Energy. When this is another issue where we're seeing one of the future is AI, right? We're putting these data centers everywhere, but they're soaking up energy left and right, and at the same time, we're cutting energy. People
Yeah.
think wind doesn't work. The Republicans are doing a good job at selling this idea that if the wind doesn't work, if the wind isn't blowing, then windmills don't work. How do you combat that? Have you thought about that? Like the issue of not just selling that renewables are good to have in our portfolio, but also trying to combat this negative messaging.
Yeah. I mean, if you rolled back the clock on solar, if the sun don't shine, we're not going to get energy. Well, a couple decades later, it's the cheapest source of energy. And so, yeah, right now we are on an innovation curve. And right now it's not the least expensive way to get energy, but we need to build all energy everywhere as much as possible. We also need to be much more aggressive on cutting bureaucracy and regulation to make it easier to build. We need to have an abundance of energy policy, which means that we can't wait 5 years to have project approvals in order to build. Like we need to be able to move fast. We A criticism that I have of the Democratic Party is we've lost our ability to be ambitious and actually get things done. And the public does not trust us to actually be able to execute on our dreams. What we're talking about clean energy. We're talking about uh, building public transit, high-speed rail. We're talking about in our district, there's about 20 towns that don't have clean water right now. We have PFAS, forever chemicals in our water. These are things that Democrats have tried to solve for decades. And we've let bureaucracy and process get in our way. And so we need to get some elected officials in there to actually get stuff done. It's not just about the shiny object. It's, can people see the impact that you have? I've been reading it's an amazing book. Uh, I got it at a classic store, a classic bookstore in Lambertville, New Jersey, which is all the way on the west side. I think it's right about there. And it's a history of New Jersey written in 1935. And
Wow.
it outlines what the current state is in 1935. And there's this page that I stared at for 15 minutes. And it just outlined the train lines in the state of New Jersey. And then I opened up my fancy app, pulled up NJ Transit, and I looked at the train lines in 2025. 90 years later, it's basically the same. We've lost our ability to build. So if people are going to regain their trust in the Democratic Party, it can't be about the words that we're saying and the ideas that we have, because Democrats have been saying these things for my entire life. We need to start having people who actually know how to build things. And that comes back to that question of of the difference between, can you get elected and can you do the job? We need to have people who do the job. Otherwise, who cares if you get elected?
Mhm.
You're going to get kicked out of office, just like the Democrats have been doing for the last couple of years. So it's a big focus that I'm going to bring back. We have to be focused on our economy, creating jobs, affordability, the things that are impacting everybody's lives, but we have to be able to deliver on those things.
Yeah, can we switch to healthcare? You want to talk about that?
Please.
Yeah, so we're right now, premiums are not premiums, but open enrollment is starting, and premiums are skyrocketing. I believe I was about to look it up, but I think it's Utah or Idaho that is already started, and people are seeing their ACA subsidies or premiums go from $200 a month to $2,000 a month. This is what they're seeing now. That's going to be across the country. What are your thoughts on the current state of healthcare? There's so much with the one big beautiful bill. We've got the ACA subsidies, and everybody talks about concepts of a plan. And so this is a big question. You could take it almost any way you want. But what are your thoughts on the current state of healthcare?
Yeah. Healthcare is a fundamental human right. Everybody needs healthcare. We should have universal healthcare. And it should not be something that costs everybody an arm and a leg, literally. So we need to recreate our policy. We need to have a caucus, a majority in Congress who actually believes that people should have health care without going into bankruptcy. Hard stop right there. We need to have that. Uh, at the same time, in the near term, we have this ACA subsidy cliff. Republicans have the power to make sure that people's premiums don't skyrocket. And what are they doing? They're shutting down the government so that they have the opportunity to not just increase people's ACA costs, but also take the opportunity to fire federal workers. And so it's a political ploy by the Republicans to get their agenda done while everyday people suffer. And we've got more than 20,000 people in our district who this is going to impact. And it's not a small impact. Like you said before, if it's $200 to $2,000, that is a significant amount of money when people are, I was talking about going on vacation before, you know, these are people who are struggling to get by. We should be doing everything that we can do to help our most vulnerable people. And instead, we're doing the exact opposite. So we need to fundamentally rework our healthcare system so that we have universal healthcare. Uh, we need to make sure we extend the ACA subsidy. And then we got to start working on prescription drug costs and the other things that are putting people into debt and not being able to afford to live healthy lives.
You think you could get prescription drug costs down 500, 1,500%?
500, 1,500%.
Yeah.
I think we absolutely can get prescription drug costs down. I think part of what universal healthcare allows you to do is take out a bunch of middlemen who are just ripping us off. You create middlemen in these processes that are taking cuts, and then people get these things at a much higher rate. And so that's going to be a big step for that. But in the meantime, Medicaid and Medicare are the biggest purchasers. So we need to be able to use our power to lower prescription drug costs for everybody.
What are your what are your thoughts? So would you I assume you would want to roll back the big beautiful bill, whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
um again, you'll have that problem if you get to Congress of at the end of the day, Donald Trump is sitting at the end of any legislation. So do you think that's something you can work again? Do you have a plan to work around that or to work with Trump?
Yeah. So I think we need to fight against the things that they have done. So um, we need to restore healthcare that they've cut. We need to restore food stamps that they've cut. We need to restore energy policy that they've cut. And Democrats and Democratic leadership, the thing that drives the affordability issue and economic policy in this country more than almost anything is taxes, our tax policy. Democrats have let Republicans own tax policy for decades. It was in 2017, it was Trump's basically only piece of legislation that he put through. We saw this year. The only piece of major legislation that he's pushing through is on taxes. Democrats need an alternative. We need to have a tax policy that works for working people, that fosters innovation, that lets small businesses thrive, that helps working families, and isn't just hand-me-outs for large corporations and the billionaires behind them. And so Democrats need to have the vision on that and to actually own tax policy.
Yeah, so right now Democrats are holding a line. Right now they're saying, listen, we're going to negotiate these Medicaid cuts, we're going to negotiate these ACA premiums, the subsidies. And right now the government, of course, is shut down. Would you stand with the Democrats on that and say, look, you're going to talk to us, we're going to come to something, or do you think there's another way they should go about it?
No, I would stand strongly with the Democrats right now. I think we should be asking more. I think that we should be going after a lot of the authoritarian things that the Trump administration is pushing through. What they are doing with masked ICE raids in our streets. The thing, I've thought for a long time the biggest issue in our politics is money in politics, and that is a major, probably issue number two for me in politics. I'm not talking about in everyday people's lives, but just in our politics. I think it's been money in politics. But now that I've been out on the campaign trail and that I've seen, what is it, 9 months, a little over 9 months of this Trump administration, I think the biggest issue in our politics is hate and fear that is being spread. Because when I go out and I talk to people and I get Democrats, independents, and Republicans, and when I get past, I'm Michael Roth, I'm a Democrat running for Congress. When they get past that and they see me as a human, and I ask them a question like, What's the thing that keeps you up at night? I hear from everybody, I just want a quality job with dignity. I just want to be able to afford a home in the place that I want to live. Uh, I just want to send my kids to school and not have them fear that somebody's going to come in with a gun, and they need to be trained for that. We have so much more alike than what's apart. And these social media companies are they are building algorithms that promote hatred, that promote division, that promote the things that divide us. And we have a president right now who's just a mastermind at using those algorithms to divide us because he himself cannot build a majority. He doesn't have that kind of power. He doesn't have that kind of following. But what he can do is fracture everybody else.
Mm.
And that is done by hate and fear. And so I think the most radical thing that we can do as a country is actually come together against hate and fear. And I bring it back to those ICE raids because there's a very clear intention with what they're doing. If you even look at their marketing ads, the type of person that they're trying to bring into ICE right now, it's the person who wants to hate. It's the person who wants to create fear in our society. It's the person who wants to wear a mask when they go in because it scares people. For 100 years, when you turn on a movie, it's the bandit who's wearing the mask, right? It's the bad guy. That's what they want to be. They're putting hatred onto our streets. And so, as Democrats, we need to be fighting hard on those issues, making sure that they can't continue to fund it at the crazy levels that they're doing, that they can't continue to let masked men go out on the street and take away oftentimes citizens. And so, I would definitely stand next to Democrats, and I would be pushing way further.
Mm.
This is the only leverage that we have. What are we doing? Let's fight. Let's fight.
Yeah, the speaking of ICE agents, um, I get the sense first off that you kind of touched on it. A lot of these guys have absolutely no uh law enforcement background, no
Yeah.
history, and very little training. We saw there's the one that just shot a marshal and a suspect because he was banging on the window with his weapon. Just amateur hour stuff. Um, but the pushback is always, oh, you're anti-ICE, therefore you want to keep violent criminals that are undocumented here in the country. So I'm going to give you a chance to put yourself on record now. Are you pro-criminal?
Trump has had a mandate to get rid of immigrants who came here illegally and have committed crimes. Good. President Biden should have done that. President Biden's border policy and policy on immigrants, especially those who were criminals, was not good. And that's such a small percentage of immigrants in this country. We are a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants. Uh, so I told you earlier, my dad is the president of the Milburn Volunteer First Aid Squad, the local first aid squad in town, and he's wonderful at his job. He really is. And he was backing out in his rig, and there was a police car next to him, and the back door opened, and my dad took the door off. He backed out, the back door was off. Sorry, the front door was off. I mixed up that story. So he took off the front door of this police car. And so they put a white door on the police car. And the police car was going through town. And all it said on the second door was ICE because the POL on the front door was gone.
Mm.
It was the biggest day on Nextdoor, on Facebook, on every local message app because everyone was like, hide our families, hide the people who help us landscape, hide the people who are the contractors building our homes, hide the people who are helping take care of our kids, hide the people who are working on our farms, hide. It's people's families that they're going after. It's not criminals. It's not criminals. And so this is also a massive economic issue. The number two issue that small businesses are having across the country right now is labor. We've got kids coming out of college with double-digit unemployment rates right now. Our educated kids are not getting jobs because the market is waiting for something bad to happen. Nobody's hiring. Uh, and our small businesses still can't get people to work for them. It's because our immigrant community, the people who are really creating the country for what it can be, is hiding because they're scared of ICE. And so our small businesses are crippled. And so this is a moral issue, it's an ethical issue, it's an economic issue, it's an affordability issue. And so we need to be fighting on immigration. We need to be making sure that people have real pathways. If they are good, upstanding community members here, we need to make sure people have pathways for it. And the Trump administration has continuously fought vendettas, political war against the immigrant community, and I just can't understand why. Trump has had, I think, 2 immigrant wives. Why does he hate them so much?
Yeah. Yeah, it's that story about your dad and the police car, that had to be absolutely wild. I just the thought of it, of that car driving around, I'm like, man, now I want to look it up like after we're done here. Um I want to run through some quick topics here just to get
Please.
you on record. Yes or no, but you can, not everything is black and white. I get it. Just don't bloviate. Just try to be as pithy as possible.
Are you saying I talk too much, Hal?
No, I'm saying politicians talk too much, and candidates alike. Um, the Social Security is always an issue. Republicans, the Trump administration has recently suggested raising the age to collect benefits. Is that something you would be for, or do you have a different plan in mind?
No, and we absolutely cannot follow his plans to privatize Social Security so people can make money off of our retirement too.
Mm. And then something that was huge in the 2024 election, but is kind of doesn't look like it's going to be an issue, but is what women's health. Strictly between a woman and her doctor, would you be for bring back the protections of Roe v. Wade?
Yes, I'm for bringing back the protections of Roe v. Wade, and we need to codify that into law. When I was, you told me not to go off on a diatribe, but they've been going after women's reproductive rights in every single facet that they possibly can. And so people should be concerned right now. When I took over the Small Business Administration, one of the first things that I found there was that they were trying to claw back money from Planned Parenthood clinics. And so the first thing that I did on January 20th, 2021 was make sure that Planned Parenthood clinics had the $90 million that they were entitled to from Congress. And so the Trump administration and Republicans have consistently tried to attack these people's rights, women's rights between them and their doctors. And we need to make sure that we codify this.
Minimum wage. We kind of touched on it a little bit. Would you be for raising the minimum wage, and do you have a number in mind? If so,
So New Jersey already has a minimum wage of about 15 and a quarter. I do think that we need a national minimum wage. The minimum wage has, I think it's about 750 now.
5, yeah.
Uh, it's been that way for decades, and we need to raise it. People need to have a living wage. It needs to be probably around $15.
Um, we didn't talk about this, but part of being in Congress, well, it's supposed to be part of being in Congress, is foreign policy. The war in Ukraine. Would you be for continuing to fund the defense of Ukraine?
Yes.
Do you have you thought about like an end game? Do you picture, or is it just so long as Russia is aggressive, we are going to be there by their side?
Yeah, I mean, we need to be providing we need to be putting diplomatic pressure on Putin. He clearly has ambitions to continue to spread and take over. He started this war, and appeasement does not work. And so, yes, we need to make sure that Ukraine has what they need to fight back. But the most effective ways have always been diplomatic and trade. It's one of the things that people are not talking about with tariff policy. Yes, it's a tax on every single American. It's a tax mostly on small businesses because they're getting a lot of times double tariffed because they're paying whatever that tariff is, 20, 40, 100%. But then a lot of the big corporations are buying up the supply and shipping lanes right now. And small businesses can't even get the materials that they're using. They have to buy it from corporations who are price gouging small businesses. But then the other issue around tariffs that people aren't talking enough about is trade has been the biggest peace tool that anyone has ever had. Our ties with countries globally has been the thing that has kept us in peacetime since World War II. And so we're giving up power, and with these tariffs, we're allowing our places like China and Russia to increase their trade relationships with people who should be our allies. And so I'm all for, we absolutely need to be putting diplomatic pressure on Russia. We need to be putting trade pressure on Russia. And at the same time, Trump is taking those things away. And our representative, Tom King Jr., is doing absolutely nothing about it.
Two more. Number one, the a universal school lunch. Would you be for federally funding that?
Yes.
All right. If let's say you're in Congress, let's fast forward, you win, you co-sponsor a bill for universal school lunch. And no matter what the income level of the child, they can go get a meal. It passes the House, it passes the Senate, it sits on Donald Trump's desk. And he calls you in to his office and he says, Mark, because he's not going to know your name, Mark, I want to sign this bill. I like it, but I can't sign it the way it is now. But I will sign it if you rename it the Donald J. Trump Feed the Children School Lunch Program. Would you make that deal?
Yeah. Good question. So I go back to my niece, my 8-year-old niece, Gabrielle. And when I asked her, what does a representative do? She told me represent people. So that's how I'm going to be making my decisions. I'm going to be representing my constituents, making sure that it works for all Americans, especially the people in New Jersey 7. And we need school lunches, and I'm not going to play politics with things like that. So yes, I would do that.
Yeah, easy. So look, in order to win, you need help. You've got the ideas, you've got the charisma, you've got all those things, but people need to be involved. So if somebody wants to get involved, what do they do? How do they contact you and join your campaign?
Great question. So michaelrothforcongress.com. Sign up. If you can contribute $5, that goes a long way. If you can tell your friends about the campaign, send them to michaelrothforcongress.com. And if you want to do more, reach out to us. We're grassroots. We know that we are people powered, and we need people on our team. We absolutely need people on our team. So if you want to get more involved in that, email us directly. And if you could put it on the screen, Hillary at michaelrothforcongress.com. Just reach out, say hi, say you saw us on Hal's podcast, and you want to get involved, and we'll find a way for you to get involved. Tell your friends. We are people powered. We are fighting for you every single day. And that's how we're gonna run it when we're in Congress too. When we flip back to House, we put the Trump administration on check with checks and balances. and we're going to deliver for the American people.
Yeah. And lastly, Bon Jovi or Bruce Springsteen, you got a preference?
What do you want me to isolate half of my constituents?
Yeah, I want to cause some real division here.
I'm a Bruce guy. I'm a
Okay.
Bruce guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Michael, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you taking some time out. Really enjoyed the conversation. And I'd love to run it back. If you get through the primary and get into the general, love to talk to you again.
When I do, I would love to talk to you, Hal.
There you go.
All
All
right,
right.
talk to you soon. Thank you so much.